A face at the window. Cram says that I am a country girl at heart, and that is true. I have lived most of my 13 years in Bybanks, Kentucky, which is not much more than a couple of houses resting in a green spot alongside the Ohio River. Just over a year ago, my father plucked me up like a weed and took me and all belongings. No, that is not true. He did not bring the chestnut tree, the willow, the maple, the hay loft, or the swimming hole, which all belonged to me. And we drove 300 miles straight north and stopped in front of a house in Euclid, Ohio. No trees, I said. This is where we're going to live. No, my father said. This is Margaret's house. The front door of the house opened and a lady with red hair stood there. I looked up and down the street. The houses were all jammed together like a row of birdhouses. In front of each house was a tiny square of grass, and in front of that was a thin gray sidewalk running alongside a gray wall. Where's the bar? I asked. The river, the swimming hole. Oh, sad, my father said. Come on, there's Margaret. He waved to the lady at the door. We have to go back. I forgot something. The lady with the white red hair opened the door and came out onto the porch. In the back of my closet, I said, under the floorboards, I put something there, and I got to have it. Don't be a goose. Come on and see Margaret. I didn't want to see Margaret. I stood there, looking around, and that's when I saw the face pressed up against an upstairs window next door. It was a round little face, and it looked afraid. I didn't know when it then, had a powerful imagination, who would become my friend, and who would have many peculiar things happen to her. Not long ago, when I was locked in a car with my grandparents for 6 days, I told them the story of Phoebe, and when I finished telling them, or maybe even as I was telling them, I realized that the story of Phoebe was like the plastic wall in our old house in Bybanks, Kentucky. My father started chipping away at the plastic wall in the living room of our house in Bybanks shortly after my mother left us one April morning. Our house was an old farmhouse that my parents had been restoring, room by room. Each night, as he waited to hear from my mother, he chipped away at that wall. On the night that we got the bad news that she was not returning, he prodded and prodded on that wall with a chisel and a hammer. At 2 o'clock in the morning, he came up to my room. I was not asleep. He led me downstairs and showed me what he found. Hidden behind the wall was a brick fireplace. The reason that Phoebe's story reminds me of the plastic wall of the hidden fireplace is that beneath Phoebe's story was another one, mine. Chicken Beauty starts a story. It was after all the adventures of Phoebe that my grandparents came up with a plan to drive from Kentucky to Ohio, where they would pick me up and then the three of us would drive 2,000 miles west to Lewiston, Idaho. This is how I came to be locked in a car with them for nearly a week. This was not a trip that I was eager to take, but was one I had to take. Graham had said, we'll see the whole thing done country. Graham squeezed my cheeks and said, this trip will give me a chance to be with my favorite chicken beauty again. I am, by the way, the only chicken beauty. My father said that Graham couldn't read maps worth a hill of beans, and that he was grateful that I had agreed to go along and help them find their way. I was only 13 and although I did have a way full maps, it was not really because of that skill that I was going. Not a lot way. It was to see the whole ding dong country that Graham and Grams were going. The Will Wilsons were buried beneath piles and piles of unsaid things. Some of the Will Wilsons were 1. Graham and Grams want to see Mama, who was resting peacefully in Lewiston, Idaho. 2. Graham and Grams neither want to see Mama, but they was afraid to. 3. That want to be alone with the red-headed Margaret cadaver. He had already seen Mama, and he had not taken me. Also, although this wasn't important, that did not trust Graham and Grams to behave themselves along the way unless they had me with them. Dad said that if the tried to go on, he would save everyone a lot of time and embarrassment by calling the police and having them arrested before they even left the driveway. Even sounds a bit extreme for a man to call the police on his own totally old parents. When my grandparents got in a car, trouble just naturally followed them like a filly trailing behind a mare. My grandparents hid where my father's carnals full up to the tops of their heads with goodness and sweetness, and mixed with all the goodness and sweetness was a large dash of peculiarity. This combination made it interesting to know, but you could never predict what they would do or say. When it was certain that the three of us would go, the journey took on an alarming, expanding me to hurry that was like a walloping red thundercloud assembly around me. During the week before we left, the sound of the wind was hurry, 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 and not even the silent darkness whispered rush, rush, rush. I did not think we would ever leave, and yet I didn't want to leave. I did not really expect to survive the trip. But I had decided to go and I would go, and I had to be there by my mother's birthday. This was extremely important. I believe that if there was any chance to bring my mother back home, we're happy on her birthday. If I had said this aloud to my father, or to my grandparents, they would have said that I might as well try to get a fish in the air, so I did not say it aloud. But I believe it. Sometimes I am as ordinary and stubborn as old junkie. My father says I live in a bronchi weeks, and I will get a face full of swamp mud one day. When I leave Grandpa and Grams hidden and I set out the first day of the trip, I prayed for the first 30 minutes solid. I prayed that we would not be in an accident. I was terrified of cars and buses and that we would get there by mother's birthday. 7 days away, and then we will bring her home. Over and over, I prayed the same thing. I prayed to trees. It was easier than praying directly to God. There was nearly always a tree nearby. As we pulled onto the Ohio Turnpike, which is the flattest, strongest piece of road in good whole creation, Graham interrupted my prayer, Salamanca. I should explain right off that my real name is Salamanca Tree Hidden. Salamanca, my parents thought, was the name of the Indian tribe to which my great-great-grandmother belonged. My parents were mistaken. The name of the tribe was Seneca, but see, my parents did not discover the error until after I was born, and they were by then used to my name. It remains Salamanca. My middle name, Tree, comes from your basic tree. I think of such beauty to my mother that she made it a part of my name. She wanted to be more specific and used sugar maple tree, her favorite. But Salamanca sugar maple tree here was a bit much even for her. My mother used to call me Salamanca, but after she left, only my grandparents even called me Salamanca. When they were not calling me Chica Billy, to most other people I was Sal, and to a few boys who thought they were especially amusing I was Salamander. In the car, I was started our long journey to Lewiston. As for my grandmother, he didn't say Salamanca, what don't you entertain us? What sort of thing did you have in mind? Grandma said, how about stories? Spin us a yarn. I certainly do know heaps of stories, but I learned most of them from Grandma. Grandma suggested I tell one of my mother that I could not do. I had just reached the point where I could stop thinking about her every minute of every day. Grandma said, well then, what about your friends? You got any chance to tell about them? Instantly, Phoebe Winterbottom came to mind. There was certainly a huge hot really full of things to tell about her. I could tell you an extensively strange story I warned. Oh God. Oh good, Grandma said, delicious. And then and that is how I happened to suspend my three prayers and tell about Phoebe Winterbottom, her disappearing mother, and the lunatic. Bravery. Because I first saw Phoebe on the day my father and I moved to England, I began my story of Phoebe with a visit to the red-headed Margaret Cadaver, but I also met Mr. Partridge, her elderly mother. Margaret nearly fell over herself, be nice to me. What a lovely hair, she said, and aren't you sweet? I was not sweet that day. I was being particularly ordinary. I wouldn't sit down and wouldn't look at Margaret. As we were leaving, Margaret whispered to my father, John, have you told her yet how we met? My father looked uncomfortable. No, he said. I tried, but she doesn't want to know. No, that was the truth, absolutely. Who cares? I thought. Who cares how he met Margaret Cadaver? When at least we left, Mr. Cadaver and Mr. Patrick withdrew for approximately 3 minutes. Took note for Margaret Cadaver was the place where my father and I were not going to live. Tiny square trees, little big houses in a row, and of those big houses was ours. No swimming hole, no barn, no cow, no chicken, no pigs. Instead, a little white house with a miniature patch of green grass in front of it. It wasn't enough grass to keep a cow alive for 5 minutes. Let's take a tour, my father said, rather too heartily. We went through the tiny living room into the miniature kitchen and upstairs into my father's king-size bedroom and onto my bucket-sized bedroom and into the wee bathroom. I looked out on the upstairs without knowing the backyard had a tiny yard or a semi-patio, and the other half was another patch of grass that an imaginary cow would devour into 2 bites. There was a tall wooden fence all around the yard, and to the left and right of our yard were other identical fence plots. After the movie was a wrap and two men crammed out by Ben furniture into a warehouse, my father arranged the living room, crawling over sofas and chairs and tables and boxes and boxes and boxes. My father said it looks as if we tried to squeeze all the animals into the chicken shop, the chicken coop. 3 days later, I started school and saw Phoebe again. She was in my class. Most of the kids in my new school spoke in quick, sharp words and dressed in stiff, new clothes and wore braces on their teeth. Most girls wore their hair exactly the same way. And a short length bob, that way I call it, with long bangs that they repeatedly shoot out of their eyes. We once had a horse who did that. Everybody kept touching my hair. Don't you ever cut it, they said. Can you see on it? How do you wash it? It is naturally black like that. You use a conditioner. I could tell if they liked my hair or if they thought I looked like a wangadoo. One girl, one girl made a look finish say the most peculiar things. Like out of the blue, she would say, omnipotent or beef brain. I couldn't make any sense of it. There were Megan and Christy who jumped up and down like partridge peas, Mother Beth Ann and Pig Cheeky Alex. There was Ben who drew cartoons all day long, and a peculiar English teacher named Mr. Bridway. And then there was a few Winterbottom. Ben called her 3B by its bottom, and a beautiful picture of a bumblebee with an ice cube on its bottom. Phoebe turned it off. She was quite a girl who stayed mostly by herself. She had a pleasant round face and a huge, enormous sky blue eyes. Around this pleasant round face, her hair and jealous and proudful, curling short ringlets. During the first week when my father and I were at Margaret and we had dinner the 3 times a week, I saw Phoebe's face twice more at her window. Once aware of her, but she didn't seem to notice, and especially never mentioned that she had seen me. Then one day at lunch, she leaned to the seat next to me and said, "So you're so courageous. You're ever so brave." To tell you the truth, I was surprised. You could have knocked me over with a chicken feather, me and my brother, and said, you're brave. I was not. I said, "America, tree here was afraid of lots of things. For example, I was terrified of car accidents, death, cancer, brain tumors, nuclear war, pregnant women, loud noises, some teachers, elevators, and scraps of other things. But it was not afraid of spiders, snakes, and wasps. Phoebe and even everyone else in my new class did not have much fondness for these creatures. But one day, when a giant fat black spider was investigating my desk, I clapped my hands around it, carried it into the open window, and sit outside on the ledge. Mary Finney said, Alpha and Omega, will you look at that? Beth Ann was as white as milk. All around the room, people were acting as a fat, single-handedly checking on a fire-blazing dragon. And I have since realized is that when people expect you to be brave, sometimes you pretend that you are, even when you are frightened down to your very bone. When it was later during the whole thing with Phoebe, do not think that I realized this. At this point in my story, Graham interrupted me to say, "Why, Salamanca, of course you're brave. Only heathens are brave. It's a family trait. Look at your daddy, your mama. Well, my mother's a real heathen," I said. "She's practically is," Graham said. "You can be married to a heathen that long and not become a heathen." That is not what my mother used to say. She would tell my father, "You heathens are a mystery to me. I'll never be a true heathen." She did not say this proudly. She said was she was sorry about it. There was some sort of feeling in her. My mother's parents, my other set of grandparents are pitfalls, and they're unlike my grandfather's hidden as a donkey's unlike a pickle. Grandmother and grandfather Pickford stood up, and started steel poles went down their backs. They were starched iron clothing, and when they are shocked or surprised, which is often, they say, "Really? That's so?" And their eyes open wide and their mouths turned down on the corner. Once I asked my mother why my grandmother and my grandfather Pickford never laughed, my mother said, "They're just so busy being respectable. It takes a lot of concentration to be that respectable." And then my mother laughed and laughed a gentle way, and you could tell her own spine was no more of steel because she barely had, laughing and laughing. My mother said that grandmother Pickford one act of defiance in her whole life, as Pickford was naming her. Grandmother Pickford was only Gray Feather, named by my mother Chanhassen. It's an Indian name meaning tree sweet juice, or in other words, maple sugar. Only grandmother Pickford didn't call my mother by her Indian name. Everyone else called my mother Sugar. Most of the time, my mother seemed nothing like her parents at all. It was hard for me to imagine that she had come from them. But occasionally, in small unexpected moments, the corners of my mother's mouth would turn down and she said, "Really? Is that so?" and sound exactly like a pig phone.